Hola, mis amigos y muchachas. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué tal? How are you all? I'm coming on today because you know me, Ashley, story time, right? So this is something that's come by me so many times in these last weeks that I got to talk about it. And it's something that happened at the party I was at over the weekend, and I think I have a really good answer for this. So I'm just gonna spit it. All right. So how many of you out there have said to yourselves many times, what are these people, or what world are these people living in? Okay, because this is something that a lot of people have asked me over and over again. Like, there's times I get heated, there's times I get up in arms about things, but then I also, like I said, I'm kind of, collectively calm for the most part. And I have persons always bringing up this topic of like, oh, we're supposed to be shifting from the 3 to 5. We're supposed to be shifting from the 3 to 5. Now, I'm going to give you my rendition of what I think is going on, peeps, because I think this has actually already happened. It's already here, and people just haven't taken notice to it. So I'm going to talk about it. So, as you guys know, I'm a higher self channeler. What that means is that I can tap into people's higher consciousness. So, I'm always in different states of consciousness all the time, which is very different from the consciousness that is put forth here. And when I meet these consciousnesses, like I have to resonate to reach them or to be at their level, but then I also have an understanding when I'm communicating with these higher selves, where I honestly realize that at some points, like let's say if I'm intermingling with like a 70, that I don't really have to raise too high to meet a 70, that I'm actually kind of at par with a 70. If I need to talk to a 9, it's not as hard as it used to be, etc. So elevation in our consciousness is really what's at stake here. I think 3 and 5D is a state of consciousness, simply and truly. When people say those words, like, what world are they fucking seeing right now? How are we in the same world? We're actually stating the exact truth of what we think we're going to be interacting with in the external. So, realistically, the difference between the 3 to 5 is, let's say there's those on the left and there's those on the right. This is not a political talk, okay? Let's just call these the light lefters and the nefarious righters, or the let's say they just are there's a division struck. Okay, there's people out there, and I know you know what I'm talking about, where you literally will hear them talk and you're like, what fucking planet are you are you seeing the same planet as me? Are you? Because I don't think you are. And here's the thing, when I am in the same with the same caliber of frequency persons or energetic equivalency, we all seem to speak the same lingo. We didn't drink any Kool-Aid. We're not part of a cult. I could literally talk to people from New Zealand to Australia, New Mexico. It could be South America. I got peeps everywhere. And when we communicate, there's this understanding, no matter what their government's going through or whatever they're seeing on the news, where we can kind of always make sense to each other because we're on the same, we're listening to the same radio. How about that? And then I'll be sitting across from other people that are in the middle, that are just kind of like, I don't know what to do. This world is so confusing. I'm still on the tightrope of my life, not knowing what to do. And I don't know if I should make this jump or this move. So there's those that have already jumped and moved. I think by 2020, this was the first division struck. I think if you were a job person or a non-job person, that was the first definitive measure that changed who you were. And it started shifting you. I think that's what gave, the consciousness, let's say the creator, or all of the participating bodies of our guides and our higher selves knew what we decided is actually what kind of thwarted us into which divisionary sector of dimensional consciousness we were going to be tapping into. Because most of us, I think, that are on the same conscious web, we didn't take the shots. No, that was number one. We didn't take them. Not because we're, Jehovah's Witnesses, and not because we are hat wearers or conspiracy theorists. There is something within our soul that let us know, ding, 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 don't do it. Mayday, mayday, this is the wrong place to go, mayday. We're all like, no, don't care. Maybe some of us didn't trust our government, and rightfully so. But not all of us were that gung-ho, and we just knew in our soul it was the right thing to do. And it didn't matter what the world was showing us, because the whole world basically was telling us that we were going to kill them. We were, these, what's the word? Healthcare degenerates that were putting all of us into peril and all of that. So we went through that and we're like, I don't care what the world tells me. I don't believe in it. I don't think this is the right thing. So we didn't do it. And that was the first step, I think, for most of us to say, I believe in me. I don't care what the whole world's telling me. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. So for those of us that didn't take the jobs, I think we started our, most of it, I've been on my spiritual journey for time, but I know 2020 was a big jump off point. I think that just a nation of energy shifted and it got a lot, it quickened, put it that way. And since then, I feel like most of us have been on the 6 year emotional body integration, trauma, dilapidation, and discernment journey of self, where we went through times of and groupings of persons who fought empath versus dark empath, or empath versus narcissist, or we were just figuring out what's for us, what's not for us. And it's been a shedding of self and a discovery of self for these last 6 years. And I would say that it didn't matter if you were on your spiritual journey for 30 years. I hope concurrently you can agree with me. Shit got crazy around 2020 and it just amplified since then. And what happened was this big grouping of us that all spoke the same language, or all on the same frequency, went through kind of like a spiritual training. We are pretty much unanimously understanding of who we are. We know what we believe in, what we don't believe in. We know genocide's wrong. We don't need any boxes or any, deciphering degrees of what is right and wrong. We know that murder is wrong. We know that warmongering is wrong. We know that shooting people on the street is just cowboy, yeehaw, ching ching times, and it's not really conducive to democratic society. And no one has to really freaking tell us that, in a book. But we know these things, and these are the differences between what a dimensional, upgraded postulator is versus what a middle grounder and or a dark degenerative, because I think there's two ways of what, for those that believe in genocide and bigotry and racism and extrapolation of whole societies and warmongering and conquering and all that jazz, you can literally see a degenerative quality to this grouping of persons that exist. They want to de-escalate and de-evolve, basically, because if you're going out shooting people on the street, we're back to cowboy times. We're going to the past. We're not going to the future. And if literally we're breaking down all human rights that we fought for hundreds of years, and we're going back in time saying, fuck you, you don't matter because I say so, there's no rule of law, and we're really a slippery slope sliding down a very bad path. So what I'm trying to say is that those persons on that side, they made their bed, they're lying in it, they agree with it. And those on the lighter lefty side, let's say, we didn't need to read any books to tell us what was right and wrong. Now, what's very interesting is that unfortunately, there's a big group of middle persons right now that are fighting for their lives, or fighting for what they believe in. They're going through what we're going through in a different setting and place. Okay, so let's say, for example, we've got the 5D accelerators, maybe going on to 7. Some of us have already hit 7. There's, in my book, 72 of these dimensional existences and levels of consciousness, but I'm not going to go into all that. There's different levels of heaven, etc. It doesn't matter right now. We're just focusing on 3 and 5. So here's the degenerate side that's de-evolving. So if we're in 3, I personally think there's 8 octaves within every dimensional space. So basically, they're just like degeneratively going down in the 3-dimensional construct of consciousness. And then there's those of us that are elevating. If you're asking about 4, here's what I think. You don't have to believe me. I believe we're figuring out our shit in 4 in dream time. Because realistically, 3 and 4 are somewhat similar in the sense that maybe there's a little more degree of, let's say, darkness or negativity, or let's say depravity that is being set in those lifescapes of video game there. Like in actual color and brilliance, the color scheme is a little different. That's how you can usually detect that you're in a 4D lifescape, put it that way, in your dream time. So a lot of us are living out different lives in our dream time. And if you're somebody that doesn't have a dream journal or pay attention to your dreams, just take my word for it. That's what's happening. Because really, in your dreams, if you're somebody who follows everything that's going on in your dreams, you're literally waking up into the same life you left the day before. And if you pay attention, you're living about 3 or 4 of these lives concurrently in your dream time. Just like we are concurrently living different versions of the 3 to 5 dimensional existences in our waking life, or what we call waking life. It's all a big dream anyways, but I digress. So While we're here, we can be in the same space-time continuum, see two different worlds, like from the left to the right side. And I'm not talking politics, please get it out of your head. I'm just saying degenerate, degrading side to the evolving side. We see two different worlds, and yet we're still in the same world together. And there go why the question is, what the fuck planet are these people on, right? That's where that question comes. And before, it was like starkly uprising within us when we had to debate and try to argue with people for our viewpoints. But now that we're on this progression side, we don't need to do any of that. And that's where the middle grounders come in. The middle grounders are the ones, going back to COVID, who would have fought and screamed inside, not wanting to take the shots. And they did probably everything they could up until the brick wall they hit, which was fear. Probably they got threatened with a job. Probably they got threatened with not seeing their family through travel, etc., etc. But when shit hit the fan for them, they knuckled under, and they started sort of seeing that they were going against the rhythm and the rhyme of who they were truly. So this next period of time, which I think the next years are going to showcase to us, is that within the chaos, the level of control, the uncertainty, the insecurity, everything else that is has brazenly been showcasing itself to us as either side. But this middle ground grouping is really going to be going through that soul education, especially the emotional integration, fighting for who they are, figuring out who they really are. And that person will be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no matter who the hell asks them. If it's a person of authority, a boss, a lover, a parent, a spouse, because realistically that person's going to have to shine through as the chaos unfolds. And unfortunately, those of us on this side that have already been kind of evoluting, we're patiently watching the world unfold. And maybe you could see the differences between the two groupings, because even in the style of how they protest the same injustice is different. So you've got, let's say, the Buddhist monks who are part of, like, the seven dimensional headspace, 5 to 7 dimensional headspace. They're trying to fight this same, degeneracy with walking across for peace. Then there's those that are protesting with just signs, and they're not saying anything, and they're just trying to make their waves, but in a peaceful manner. Then you have those that are dressing up like plushies, that are part of the plushie movement, trying to dress up in animal form to just hold their signs and dance and try to protest in a peaceful way, or they march, etc. But then you're going to find that this middle grouping is so impassioned right now because things are coming to a head for them. They haven't done the emotional integration work yet, so they're angry. They're feeling like the world that they try to hold on to so dearly has totally crumbled, and they're just starkly realizing this now versus 2020. So it's a shakeup. It's like a level of shakeup that's hitting that grouping more so today, because now they're realizing they can't go back to Kansas. So they've got a whole slew of different emotions hitting them, and so they may be somewhat giving more power to the degenerative side a bit, because now that side can be like, oh, well, it's a bunch of riots and it's not about protest, and we need to send the militias and send the police force and send this and send ICE and send all this to stop them because they're not following the law, the law that the lawbreakers themselves created, because they have not been law-abiding citizens since the get of most of their administrations. Ergo, get those Epstein files out. Everything right now is to stop the pedophilic ring from being exposed. But I tell you, hear ye, it will be exposed. From organs to child molestation to all the nasty depravity that was going on in all of those, not just that island, but all around the world. But my biggest interest is mainly the children, the trafficking, and the organs. And just the mind, like the mind control, everything that they were using on these poor children that are now adults today. But what I'm trying to say is that as the middle persons and grouping, because if there's 1 billion here and there's 1 billion here, there's a big grouping in the middle, and they're finding themselves right now, and they're shaking up right now. And there's all of us that have been going through this for some time, trying to, that have been kind of leading a way and showing that it can be done. And we're hoping that they follow suit, or they come on board, but do it in a more light-filled, light-encompassed way. But at the same time, that's why people are saying, what fucking world are these people on? Because we literally are on the same planet, but we're just not seeing the same world. So when people say the 3-5D shift, it's actually already here. Now, please know that you could accelerate on past 5 if you wish to, or if you're working with your higher selves and they're showing you how to integrate more conscious awareness, etc. It's usually with emotional integration, especially emotional integration. At least that's what I've learned through my time. I've been at this for about like 4 years now, and I can say throughout all the dimensional encompassments and selves that I've interacted with, yeah, it's all about emotional integration. How well can you understand all the capacities and filaments and fractals and every single person that you meet has a reflection that you need to learn of what love really is. And I think as this middle ground starts to realize more of what love means to them, and they try to either pick a side, because you got to understand, not all the middle grounders are not going to be bigots and demoralized, and there may be a grouping of them that's like, oh, I do believe that genocide should occur. Oh, I do believe a grouping of religious persons should be executed and treasoned, and oh, I do believe that immigrants should get taken away, whatever may have you. This evolution of chaos is going to show people who they really are. That's what this is designed to do. God, sieves in a very interesting way, and it's usually through pain and suffering. And it's not because God made it this way. We made it this way, because had we have definitively decided that we were going to be soul bound, soul embodied persons from the get, which we all had the capacity to do, but we've been in fear and we've been part of a matrices that has instilled fear all this time, it was kind of difficult to break out of, and that's why this continues on in the fashion that it does. God is just so lovingly wanting to give this middle group as much time as possible to decide if they're going to be part of the degenerative 3D formation of a matrices, or accelerate into the 5. So it's really here right now. It's for the picking. It's for the choosing. You all have the ability to choose which way you want to go. Just start doing the healing. That's why so many of us are healers now. And that's at least what I believe. There's all different shapes and forms of healers, not just, channelers like myself. There's Reiki healers. There's telepathy healers. I think God's trying to show people, like, we have some, like, let's say for example, a grouping of persons that have all these abilities coming on can help show people that there's more, that it's not just what the world shows you, that there's actually not just a spiritual side to things, that like we're bringing the spirit here. You know what I mean? Some people, I've seen people that can move shit with their mind. I've seen people that can energetically push matter with their hands. I've seen people that can telepathically communicate. I've seen, and this is in real life. We have social media now that's exposing so much of this. And that's basically what it is. When middle grounders see, like, oh, this person's evolved this far, maybe I can too. But it starts with emotional integration. That's what God's going to show everyone. So it is going to be several more years, obviously, of this, giving the middle grounders that time to choose, because obviously the souls need the time that they need to evolve. And it's not even like we're ahead. It's like, no, we had to pave a way so that we showed you that it's possible. And now it's your turn to do it. It's like, tag, you're it. We're still evolving and doing what we got to do. But now you guys are in the hot seat, and now it's your turn. So for those that have decided the degenerative way of life, and this is the thing about the degenerates, I'm just calling them the right, night, dark, whatever, degenerate side. They just want to de-evolve. They don't understand soul. Because if you understood soul, you'd understand abundance. And if you understand abundance, that God gave us this planet full of abundance. There is no need for this greed and this hate and this like childish, like it's like watching children in a school year. Because I watch my son when I drop him off at school, and the kids are always fighting over toys, and they're like, "That's just mine. It's mine. It's mine." And that's what these world leaders and these heads of industry, captains of industry, they all just sound like little children fighting over a playground. And realistically, it's like there was so much to go around that these ding-dongs don't realize that abundance is really what the soul's about. Feeling like there's only a certain finite amount of things is when you don't understand how solar manifestation works. And you have to use more ape-like, animalistic methods to hold on to things, which is really sad. Whereas when the middle grounds or middle persons find out through all of this chaos that they want more, and then they start shifting to the light, the great ascending side, the elevators, the ones that want to evolve out of this mindset over here, then that soul shift is also going to bring more conscious thought and more conscious waves to our side per se. And I don't want to say that it's a our side or they side, degenerate side thing, but it kind of is, because that's why we're seeing the two worlds as they're shaping right now. That's why we can't understand what fucking world these people are on. You can have these conversations and you're like, you can't figure out that killing people is wrong. No, doesn't, like, oh, genocide, like it has to be certain persons where this is okay. Does that make sense? Shooting people in the street, not a problem. No, shouldn't kick your government out, shouldn't a treason, all those things, this shouldn't be done. No, okay. I don't know, there's so many things that are happening, and it's like, how do humans even just come to the point where they lose all sense of humanity? Like I've said, like, I'm not part of so many countries, but the starking stories and headlines that are shaping this world right now, like, I don't even know how you can be the person who's doing this. You'd have to be on the degenerative demonic side to do half of the things. Like I said this in a video past, like where I saw videos of like persons getting boiled to death, like and I'm like, how could you be that person who's holding the water to boil persons live, like lobsters? Like, I already have a problem with lobsters, let alone people. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to say. And that's why I find it so hard to swallow with the police forces and the militaries of this world, because not for nothing, like Elon Musk easily described the world for him, and I've said in many videos, he believes his entourage / military force of robots is going to be developed within 2 to 5 years. And if you guys that are supposed to uphold the law, or whatever these unlaw-abiding lawmakers are making these days, it's like popping fresh over here, you're just following orders. And I understand you need a paycheck, and I get that, but at the same time, it's like, when you're following the lead or the orders of those that are degeneratively lost and confused, and there's no real purpose other than their selfish means, you're actually, as a citizen, hurting your chances at evolving with the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? And not for nothing, in 2 to 5 years, you're probably going to get kicked out and not have a job anyways, because there's going to be robots to fulfill those spots that are going to be bulletproof and money proof. So it's actually better to think of, like, what can you do as a citizen? Like, how do I benefit the citizens? How do I benefit my family? How do I benefit my country? Is it by going and fulfilling orders of killing others for no good reason because some ding dong in a higher up position supposedly told me to? That's what us on the light side wouldn't even fucking contemplate. We'd already be like, no, how about you pick up a gun and do it, you a jackass? But hey, all these big leaders, if they didn't have you guys so smart and brilliant and so skilled at being an elite force of, militants, do you think those degenerates could even do one of the things you could do? You're actually the more skilled. So I'm just saying, if you're fighting for your country and your country is falling apart at the seams, you're actually helping that country fall apart. Or if you're a cop who's stopping protesters from protesting the same rights that are going to be useful for you as a citizen when you take and zip off that uniform, just saying, you might want to reconsider this, and you're part of this middle group too. If not, it's more about the soul. Let's look at it in terms of soul. Let's weigh ourselves by what the soul would believe in. Like, if you were going to go to the pearly gates to heaven, how do you think your soul would weigh?